So,
99 in the house.
Dave, have you ever lost a deer?
I have, and it's very unfortunate. Oh well,
Um,
it's funny that we're having a podcast about this because I've told this story many times, but I lost this buck. Remember
yeah, you did.
the big buck that got stolen that
Hmm.
landed me an Outdoor Life magazine and all this other crap. You had
Got you,
deer stolen.
got you crazy publicity.
Yeah, it got me famous on this, and then I recently had another deer stolen that we're going to discuss. And
Yeah.
I, we're talking about it because you had deer stolen. I just had a deer stolen from me, but is it really stolen? I mean, I guess it is in a way,
Uh,
but I mean,
well, you didn't get
it's
you didn't get a chance to retrieve it, so
so
I mean,
yes.
is
So
it
it's not
technically stolen?
correct,
DNR probably said no.
right? So that's why we're talking about it because what do you do? What do you do in that situation?
Well,
Um,
what? Okay, let's lay it out. What's
let's.
going on is
Yep.
when people shoot a deer and someone else comes upon it.
Yeah. What do you do?
What what do you want to do? I mean, what do you want to claim someone else's deer for?
Right. Doesn't make sense.
It
It's
doesn't
a.
make sense.
It's a.
It's like the guys that go down the road and see a road-killed buck, and they get out a saw and they stop and they saw the antlers off. What are you
Mhm.
gonna do with it?
Right.
You gonna take
Yeah.
it to work and say, "Look what I got," you know?
It's
Uh,
an easy grab.
yeah, but
I don't know.
are you gonna lie about something? Make something up and say, "Look,
Yeah.
I killed this buck," or
Claim the
I don't
fame.
know. We had a guy. We had a buck pool at work one time, and a guy he found someone's deer. Like someone shot it during rifle season and didn't follow up on it, or maybe it got away from him and it died somewhere else. And he brought the stinking thing in. I mean, literally stinking thing, and tried to win the buck pool with it.
Jeez
Because it
Louise.
was it was a nice buck, I guess, and
Right.
he hauled it in on the tailgate and said, "Look, this is what I got," and
Wow.
I guess the truth came out later that it was something that he had found.
Yeah. Crazy.
But yeah, I'll just tell my story and then I'll let you do the talking. But what happened was I was hunting one time and I was shooting some does, and the first doe came out and I shot her, and she ran off down this trail, and I just stayed up in the tree and waited and knocked another arrow, and the deer came back out and I shot another one. Well, the deer ran down the same exact went entered the woods in the same exact spot, and it ran down the same exact trail.
I missed it. Was this rifle season?
No, this was archery. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, this was our early archery, and it was years ago, like almost 30 years ago. And my it was still pretty warm out, and my buddy's like, you know what? I'm kind of hungry, and I'm like, yeah, I'm really hungry too. And I said, why don't we just let's go in town? We'll go to the local pizza joint. Let's go
Were
get a
you
pizza.
were you ordering an entire pizza and eat every piece yourself?
We did basically. But we went in, got a pizza, and came back, and we said, we'll wait for it to cool down a little bit and let them deer go off and do their thing and die, and we'll come back and get them. So we come back and picked up the trail, and it looked like somebody had two milk jugs and just walked down the trail like this, just spilling it out. I mean, they ran down the same trail side by side. It looked like, and yeah, looked like two jugs of blood just spilled out. And yeah, I mean, we got to the end of the trails, and one stopped a little bit prematurely than the other, but we got to the end of the trails and there was no deer with drag marks off down through the woods, out through the field, and toward a local establishment down there where they parked at.
Public land, right?
Mm, Yes and no. I
Or
mean,
where you shot him at? Was it public or private?
I think somebody owns that property. But we had permission to be on there through my buddy,
Mhm.
and I don't know if the people that were parked down there had permission to be up there or not. I'm not sure. Uh, that's a little gray. Good question. I don't even know.
Yeah, I
I
was just
can't
thinking.
remember. I
I was
can't
like, this
remember that.
that's what I was just thinking. I was like, "This guy's spitting freaking gray at me right now."
Yeah, that's gray area. I can't remember. I'd have to ask my buddy, but anyhow, yeah. All and I'm like, do you remember? Did you see anybody? He's like, no, I didn't see anybody. I said, do you remember anybody parked down there? And he's like, you know what? I remember that old Ford. Well, this is how long ago it was. A Ford Bronco 2. Remember
Mm.
the little ones?
I had
Eh,
one.
He's like, yeah, there was a Ford Bronco 2 sitting down there when
Eddie
we walked
Bauer.
when we came up through the field. I'm like, okay, so that's basically what happened. I mean, I don't have a big drama story. Just
Yeah.
that's what happened. I shot 2 deer. They both ran down the same trail. We went in town and ate, came back. No deer at the end of the trails.
Mm.
Just drag marks down through the field towards the Eddie Bauer. So, I mean, I guess as far as I can remember, that's the only 2 that I ever had taken that I can recall.
Now, have you ever shot a deer and then maybe somebody on that same private or whatever shot it the same deer again because it ran by them and
Yeah,
their arrow or their bullet actually physically killed it?
2 times that I can remember.
So whose deer was it?
2 2 times I can actually remember this. Okay. I had a deer. I was hunting a hillside, and a deer come up over the top of the hill. So I was shooting uphill. This was in rifle season with a 30-30 when I was just a teenager, and boom, shoot uphill, hit this thing. I don't remember. It was like it was a bad shot, evidently, because I followed this buck for quite a while. Um, I think it was a brisket shot. I think I rushed the shot and I hit it forward,
Mhm.
and it ran on me. I mean, ran. And back then, I thought my idea was if I push it hard enough, I'll get another shot. That was my thinking. I was a teenager. Instead of, I should have just backed out and just waited for it to lay down and die. But I thought, young and dumb, I would just push this thing and I'd get another shot at it. So anyhow, I pushed it, pushed it, pushed it. I caught up to it a couple of times and it kept bumping out in front of me. And at one point, I heard, and I get up there, and it's one of my buddies.
Mm.
And I'm like, "Did you guys just shoot?" And he's like, "Yeah, there was just a buck come through here, and we finished it." I'm like, "Finished it?" He's like, "Well, yeah, it looked like it wasn't moving too good or something." And I'm like, "Well, I've been following that buck." I said, "I shot it, a mile probably away from here." He's like, "Nah, nah." He's like, "This buck wasn't hit." I'm like, "Well, you said you finished it." He's like, "Well, I meant we killed it." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "This buck wasn't hit." And I'm like, "Well, I guarantee you take that buck home and skin it out, and it's gonna have 2 holes in it, yours and mine." And he's like, "No, no," and he's arguing with me. And I was like, "Whatever, I don't care. It's your deer. I don't give a crap. Take it." So he went home and they skinned it out, and he called me. He's like, yeah, you know what? You were right. Somebody else shot this deer." I was like, "Yeah, that was me." I said, "So
He stole your deer.
it's yours." Now, the other incident, the
See
same
what
thing.
happens when you steal people's thunder?
Same thing, same gun, 30-30. 4 point, back when we didn't have antler restriction. It was either 4 or 6 point. I can't remember. Come around and I popped this thing. It runs downhill, gets all wobbly, and crashes. And it's behind this log, this big blowdown or something. And it starts raining. Well, I didn't feel the need to shoot it again. I just stayed in the stand and watched it. I figured it's just going to lay there and expire. Well, two guys heard me shoot, and they come. You ever notice that when you shoot, people come?
Hmm.
Yeah, I shot, and these two people come, and they were standing on top of the hill, looking down through the valley, and that buck looked up and seen them two people, and it stood up. It's just standing there all punch drunk, all wobbly. And the dude, I was like, no. And I see, because I seen him putting the gun up. I'm like, no. And he pulls he gut shoots it. It's raining, and he gut shoots it, and it takes off running. So they come down the hill looking around. I get down out of the tree. I'm like, dude, why did you shoot that? Why did you shoot at that? I said, I hit that thing. It was just laying there in front of me. He's like, well, it stood up. I'm like, yeah, but it would have just laid there. He's like, well, now what? I'm like, well, let's track it. I said, if we find it, it's yours. I said, because I watched you shoot it through binoculars. You shot it in the guts. I said, I'm not taking it. I said, it's your deer. You put the last bullet in it. So we never found that deer. He shot that thing and kicked it up, and we started trailing it, and we pushed that thing right out of the county, probably. I don't know. Just young and dumb.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the other instance.
Now you're just old and dumb.
Just dumb.
Dumb dumb.
So
Well,
tell
that's
us your
unfortunate.
stories.
That's unfortunate. So
Tell us your stories that you can't prove.
I can't prove. I proved it with a trail camera picture.
DNR
So
said, nope, nope,
yeah,
nope.
yeah. So I was off. Was it last week? Yeah, it was last week. Yeah. Today's Friday or today's Thursday. So it was the previous week. I was hunting this area and public land. And I think I mentioned it like a couple podcasts ago, whether I was waiting for this specific time to hunt this area because every year bucks seem to go in there. So I was waiting for the perfect time. And it's out on this little finger that goes out. And it's basically landlocked because it's surrounded by water. So there's two ways into this finger coming out of the big woods. Coming out of big woods, it goes in. Then you have a pond in the middle. Then you can the deer can go on this side of the pond or this side of the pond, right? So then on both sides is water. So there's literally one way, two ways in and two ways out. So I have trail cameras set up on both those sides to see any deer that can go in and out of that area or people. I also have a trail camera out at the very finger of it is where I have sending you when I send you the pictures of the bucks in
Yeah.
there. It's way out on the finger. And
Mhm.
I mean 50 yards out in front of that camera where I send you it, it's water, like wide open water. So I started getting buck pictures. So I went in there, hunted it for like a day or two or something, and that afternoon I shot a buck. And it was a good one. It was probably maybe 140-ish, 140. It was a good. And I know I hit it a little bit far back. And I waited. I waited
Did the right
and
thing. You backed up.
yep, I waited. I backed out. I knew it was going to die. I knew it was going to die. I backed out. I walked maybe, I don't know, 50 yards and I just backed out. I went back to the truck, went home. Next morning, I came back and I hunted that morning, got down, and I said, I figured I'd wait till about 10 o'clock because I didn't want to look right away. I just, in my mind, I just didn't want to ruin anybody else's hunt that could have possibly been around in that area where it ran. So I hunted till about 10 o'clock and I got down and I started looking. And I started looking and everything. Well, I got a trail camera picture of two guys dragging the deer out. And I saw them walk in the morning. So I knew they were back in there. So, and then I saw them walk out with the deer. They were dragging the deer, and I, by the time I got over there, they were gone. So they stole my buck. I'm upset. But what do you do?
DNR said, so sad.
Yeah, so sad. Dry your eyes. So, I mean,
They
I
said
never,
there's nothing you can do with a trail
I,
camera picture.
yep, I never
I don't know. To
caught
me,
a,
that's evidence. I don't know. Why can't you
yeah,
do something
I
about it?
mean,
But there's no proof that you shot it,
no,
and
there's none. I mean,
no
I
proof that
never
they
did.
didn't shoot it.
Yep, I never did get to catch up with the two guys. By the time I got over there and over to there, and grabbed all my gear and this and that, I mean, they were gone. The drag, I saw it on the truck. I sent you the picture.
They might have
Um,
walked in there. It might have still been alive. They finished it
that
off and blah blah
that's what I'm
blah.
saying. I
Yeah,
never
there's just no
physically
proof.
found the deer. I never found
Right,
the buck,
right.
but they were dragging it out. So,
There's a clear picture of that.
oh yeah, I mean, were they hunting back in there and they happened to see a wounded buck and they finished it off like you said?
It's
Or did they happen
possible.
to go over that way and just it was laying there and they just happened to grab it?
Likelihood is yes.
So I think it was already dead, but I mean, it's an unfortunate situation that
I mean, even if you gut shot it,
yeah,
it probably would have expired in that amount of time.
probably. Yeah, I know I didn't gut shoot it. It was a little
Yeah.
far back, but it wasn't, and it was actually kind of quartered away a little bit too. So um it just it made me lose sleep for like 2 days, 3 days about it. I'm upset.
Nightmares.
Yeah. But the good news is today's Thursday. I'm off
You're off
tomorrow
tomorrow
and I'm going hunting in that same spot because you know why?
because you got
An-
more on camera.
Another big buck showed up today
Woo!
during the daylight. So
Nice.
now I'm gonna go back in there and kill another one.
And them kids are gonna walk under you.
Probably. They're probably gonna steal a deer again, and DNR will tell you to dry your eyes. Bitter. He said I was bitter.
Hmm. I'd be bitter.
Yeah. It, it sucks, but
At
hey,
least mine were just does, not a 140.
yeah. I mean, that's the way it goes, though, man. I mean,
I know.
it it
That's
it, it sucks that hunters ha- are that have to be that way. But hey, I could have the wrong idea. Maybe they went in there and
hard to tell.
it was still alive, and they were like, "Oh God, wounded buck. I'm gonna shoot this thing and finish it off."
Yeah,
So
I
if
mean,
that was the case,
very
that's
possible.
technically their deer.
Yeah,
They didn't know
yeah,
I was there. We
yeah. I
never ran.
mean, there, like you said, you contacted DNR, right?
Mm,
And asked them if there was anything
yeah,
to be done, and they was like basically, hey, this is fair game,
right. Is what it
Um,
is.
I mean, what do when you're out in the woods, like you said, and you hit one, you're following it, and someone else hits it, knocks it down, and
Mm,
they're standing over it gutting when you walk over to it.
mm,
And you're like, "Hey, I just shot that deer," and they're like, "Well, I just finished it."
yeah,
I mean, they always say last bullet in
right.
it. But I've seen like that guy that shot the deer I killed. Well, I would have had. He gut shot it.
Mm.
I mean,
Well, I know it was probably about 15 years ago, a friend of mine shot a 14 pointer.
oh my,
It was down in Queen Anne's County, Maryland. It was a big buck. And his father and stuff they had like a 275-acre farm around that area that they leased out. Well, he shot this 14. I was there. He shot this 14-point buck. I mean, it was big. Well, it ran, and another member in that, it was a club. Another member shot the deer again
mm,
as it was running by him. Well, it died. The second guy that shot it claimed it as his,
yeah,
and my buddy was flipping out. Well, we were only like 16 or 17. So of course we go back to the camp and my buddy's telling his father what happened. He's like, "Dad, I shot this deer and the guy ran past his stand, he shot it and then it died." And his theory on it was Well, just because that guy shot it a second time doesn't mean the first time wouldn't have killed it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So his dad and then this guy start arguing and fighting over this buck. And I'm like, holy crap, you know, I mean, they were about to duke it out, you know, over this buck. But
Wow.
that's what deer hunting does to people though.
Well, I mean, who's right?
I know.
I
Who's to
mean,
say that my buddy's shot wouldn't have killed it?
right.
Just because the guy shot it for a second time, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
both shots could have killed it.
Right.
So whose is it?
Hmm.
Tough,
It is.
tricky.
It's hard, and when you call authorities, even if they would come out and investigate,
Yeah,
I think they would probably side with the second shot.
me too. There's nothing they can do.
Because they're gonna say, "Well, they finished it. That
Exactly.
was he was the last person to shoot."
Yep.
You know. But what happens if he misses? He
Right.
shot last and he missed. How do you prove that one?
Right. Exactly. Right.
I guess you gotta autopsy it and see how many holes are in it.
I guess. I mean, I saw that happen too when I was probably about I was probably 20. I was at a outfitter in Ohio and something similar like that happened where a guy had shot one with his bow. The arrow, his physical arrow was stuck in the deer. It ran whatever yards away and another guy that was hunting in the with the outfitter shot the deer and then they recovered it. But the arrow from the first guy was still stuck in it.
Hmm.
And they made the second guy, they claimed it as his, even though the first guy had his arrow buried in it.
Yeah.
They
Mm.
gave it to the second guy that shot it. So,
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a universal thing. Second shooter gets it
mhm,
because they finished it off.
yeah.
But
I'm sure tons of people listening probably have had some kind of
oh, I'm
situation
sure.
like this.
I hope people comment and tell us their stories, and you know, tell us their thoughts on that. I mean, but like you said, though, how about the person like you that shot something and it runs over 100 yards away, and there's another guy standing there, and he sees it fall,
Mhm,
and they just go over and start gutting it. Yeah, what do you do then? You gonna go down and confront them?
right.
I mean, I probably would go down and say something, but how deep do you get into that? If there's a couple guys standing there with a gun and you want to argue,
Mm, I know, right.
I don't. Today people are nuts. People are friggin' nuts.
Well, I hunted a farm, it was a 175-acre farm. There was 3 people in the club there. This was, I don't know, 8, 10 years ago in Maryland. I drove down there to hunt early muzzleloader, which was that mid-October hunt. I drove down there. I get to the area. I get set up. I walk half a mile, back to my tree stand. As I get to my physical hang-in tree stand that was already pre-hung, I get there and a guy's flicking his light at me, and he's in my tree stand, right? And it wasn't a guy from the club. It
Oh
was a
my!
trespasser.
Oh my!
So I get to the base of the tree and I shine my light at him. It's dark, pitch dark. And I was like, dude, I was like, you're in my tree stand and this is private property. You're trespassing. He's like, well, I'm in the stand first, blah, blah, blah. I'm hunting this tree, come get me out of here, blah, 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 blah. And he had a muzzleloader with him. All he had to do was point down and I could have just pointed up. But I said, look, man, I said, you got 2 options. I said, you can climb out of this tree willingly, or I'm going to come up and get you. And we argued back and forth for a couple of minutes. And then finally he climbed down and I'm standing there in the dark with headlights. It's like, dude, you're trespassing. You're in my physical tree stand.
Right?
I said, you're like 200 yards off of any property line.
Mm.
How did you get here? Where did you come from? And I was like, and at that point, I just wanted him to leave. I didn't
Right.
feel like calling a DNR. I'm trying, it was in early morning. I just wanted to hunt. And finally, he walked away. But it's spooky because, like,
Yeah.
I gave him two options. I said, you could climb down willingly, or I'm going to come up and get you out. Pick one.
Oh
I was
my.
probably like, I was probably 30 years old or so. But
I don't get the
um,
audacity of some people.
I mean, that's crazy to go on somebody else's property and climb another tree stand.
Even if it's public ground,
Yeah.
state or national park or and whatever, game land,
Hmm.
to crawl into someone else's stand, that's weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
Um,
Now,
I'm not saying I never did it. I've climbed in people's stands before and looked around and thought, "Wow, this is a pretty cool spot," you
hmm
know. But I didn't sit their spot, you know.
oh yeah, yeah.
I just crawled
Now,
up in it. If there's if it was a ladder stand or something, I just climb up in it and look around and see why. Try to mentally sit there and think, why are they hunting here? And I'd
mhm,
look around like, yeah, this is nice, or boy, there's not even a shot here. But I've
right.
climbed up in ladder stands before that I've found, you know.
Um,
But
in in PA, you're allowed to hang a stand on public and leave it there.
yeah,
Okay.
you
So
just your
in
stands have to be out 2 weeks after season. They got to
okay,
be gone.
but they can stay all season long.
Yeah, you
Um,
can leave them.
so in Maryland, you cannot do that. You can't leave a tree stand there overnight. You have to physically take it out every single day.
Okay.
So is there a rule in PA where that something says you can't hunt somebody else's stand on public land?
I don't think there is a rule.
So if somebody hangs a stand in PA to leave it out all season, somebody has the right to hunt that stand.
I don't know if it's a right, but it's not a wrong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't think legally you can do anything.
Yeah. At that point, it would just be common courtesy not to hunt it.
Basically,
Yeah.
because I have a lot of stands out, and I know people see them. You know, Obviously, I put out a lot of mock scrapes, and I was trying to hunt some mock scrapes in archery season, and I was getting pictures of people walking past my camera. So obviously they probably looked up at some point and seen a stand there, you
Hmm.
know. So far though, I haven't ever had anybody sitting in a stand of mine. Um, I've had people get real close to me and set up.
Hmm.
Um,
You'll have monkeys soon. Monkeys will be sitting in your tree stand.
well, I won't. South Carolina will.
Yeah, all the monkeys that escaped. Hey, I'm telling you, that day when I was hunting that public land, I saw a freaking monkey swinging from a vine.
Oh
I'm
boy,
telling, I'm telling you, it was a monkey. You remember
you
that?
you did say something about it, but I think it was a possum.
It was back swinging from a vine, a possum.
Yeah, hanging by its tail.
It was early September,
They
and
are
I'm telling you,
marsupials.
it was breaking daylight, and I saw this thing swinging from a vine,
Yep.
and it was a monkey. I'm telling you, it was a monkey.
Oh,
It was a monkey, man. And I have a thing for monkeys. I'm gonna buy
yes,
a
you do.
monkey. I'm gonna buy a
Yes, you
monkey.
do.
They're cool.
So, have you had stands stolen?
Yeah,
I know
I have.
I know we had trail cameras stolen, but
I had trail camera stolen, and I
I
had.
had I had two stands stolen, and one was on private, and someone came on there and took it down.
Hmm.
Don't know where it was or who. And what it was on a gas line right away, and it was clearly on private property that I had permission to be on. And I even went as far as asking if I could put in some screw in steps.
Mm.
And that was okay by this person because it was a pine tree. They was like, yeah, it's a pine tree. Don't worry about it. So somebody was playing games with me, though. Literally, somebody was playing games with me because they had to see me and I didn't know it because I climbed down one time and I took down the lower steps so that no one else could get up in there. You know what I'm saying? And I took the steps and I found a log and I lifted the log up and I put the steps underneath the log and put the log back down on top of these steps so that I didn't have to carry them jingle jangling things in my pocket in next with me the
Mhm.
next time. Well, the next time I went in there to hunt, steps were gone that I hid under a log. Now, who would find a pair of steps under a log like that?
I think I remember you telling me this.
Someone had to see me hide them or
Mhm.
crawl down out of there or something,
Yep.
and they stole the steps. So I had more steps. So I came the next time, the third time I came back, I wanted to hunt. I brought more steps. So went in, hunted, didn't shoot nothing, came down, did the same thing, took the lower steps down, and this time I took them with me. Came back the fourth time, and somebody was really jerking around. They stole all the steps off the tree.
What?
Yep, they took them all. They
Somebody was
somehow
messing with you.
they must have put the other steps that they stole off me back in enough that they could reach my upper steps, and they
Mhm.
wound them all out and took them all out.
Wow.
So that was like the end of the archery season. So the next spring I go back and I'm scotting turkey and stuff, and I could see down the gas line quite a ways. So I would just take binoculars, look down the gas line, and I could see the stand. I just checking on it, making sure it's cool. That was in the spring, right? Well, more towards summertime, I went in there and I did the same thing. Looked, checked the stand, couldn't see it. I thought that's weird. Wonder what's going on here. I
They
walked
robbed you.
down. I walked down there and they stole the stand.
Mm.
I guess they figured, well, he left it. It's free game.
Yeah.
So that was gone. And then in another instance, I was in an area where a guy didn't want me to be, and he took my stuff down. And I found out who it was, so I went and talked to him, and I got the stuff back.
Yeah.
But there was a misconception there. He had trail camera stolen, and he thought since I was right there hunting that possibly I was the one that stole it, so he was going to take my stand in revenge. And
See what hunting causes?
yeah, I mean it's so there's so much bitterness.
So I had my mother, she's retired now, but she was a manager at a grocery store, and this this old guy used to come in there like every day. So she just, got to see him in there.
Got to know him.
Yeah, got to know him. And somehow, I don't know how it happened, but something came up about hunting. And she was like, "Oh, my son's big on hunting, this, and this." He's like, and he told her, he's like, "Oh, well, tell him to come to my property. I got 70 acres and he can hunt it." So she calls me like on the phone right away. She's like, and she's telling me about it. She's like, "Did I do good? Did I do good? I got you permit." I was like, "Yeah, mom, I had
Yeah,
70
that's cool.
acres." I was like, "You did good." So she got the guy's number. So I call him. He's like, "Yeah, come on over here. I come on up." So I drive over there and I meet the guy. Super nice guy. He said, "This is my property. You can hunt the whole thing." I'm like, "Okay." Well, his property was long and narrow, and with it long and narrow, you had a road at the end, two roads that ran parallel with it, and then his house sat at the other side, and it was surrounded by crops. So I went back in there. I started scouting, and I saw it was right around the end of October. I'm like, "Mom, this is like perfect timing. You got me in there during the rut. And I started scouting scrapes everywhere. I saw one wooden tree stand that was like it was built, you know, screwed into the tree.
Hmm.
So I went kind of like toward the opposite end, and I found a good spot. So I set up a tree stand, and I put screw in steps, and I put a trail camera out. I came back the next day and I hunted it. I saw like a big buck. I was like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be good." I come back the next day, my tree stand's gone and my trail camera's gone. So I called my mom. I said, "Mom," I said, "How well do you know this guy? Like, I don't know what happened." She's like, "Well, what happened?" I said, "Somebody stole my tree stand and my trail camera off that guy's property." So I called the guy, and he was like, I said, "Hey man, do you have anybody else hunting this property?" He's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "I probably gave about 10 people permission."
Ooh.
I'm like, "What?" I said, "Well, somebody stole my tree stand and trail camera out of your woods." He's like, "Oh, well, there's 10 people that hunt there. Somebody probably just took it." I'm like, so come to find out,
Like matter
I
of fact.
started I started asking around, and this guy apparently gave permission to everybody.
Mm.
Like his woods is open to everybody to hunt it. So I don't know who it was, but somebody was in there, saw it,
Jeez.
and just they were mad or something and decided to take it. The way he talked to me about it was that I was the only one hunting it.
Oh.
But I ended up talking to a few other friends. I'm like, "Hey, you know this guy, this, that, and the other." They're like, "Oh yeah, I've hunted there before." He's like, "My buddy hunts there, and then this buddy hunts there." And then that's how that ended up being.
Yeah,
But
yeah. That's why I got away from one of the properties I hunted.
yeah,
My buddy, my buddy, his family owns this farm, and he just couldn't say no.
yeah, that's
Anybody
how we
that
ended up.
asks would be
Right.
allowed, and
Yeah,
it just got overcrowded. And I was like, you know
yeah,
what, I'm out.
yeah. I
So
mean, the way his property was set up, it probably would have been good for about two people.
yeah,
Um,
not
but
10.
yeah, not 10, not 10.
All
Well,
right.
yeah,
Well,
let us
I
know if you have a
yeah.
deer stolen
Hopefully,
situation or what.
hopefully we can get some comments going here. I'm sure people have opinions on this stuff.
I'm sure people
So
experience the same thing too. So
yeah, yeah, sure.
let us know.
Tell us your stories.
Yep.
Episode 99.
See you on 100.